Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the old Liberation Day. Yes. What's the plan? I mean, in my honest opinion, guys, you want to stay away from this marketplace because this market is absolutely wild. We're seeing a little bit of flavor in Euro. And of course, Bitcoin is doing all right. But man, as someone said in the comments, it is genuinely a poker match, you know? Now, the word on the street about these tariffs is he going to be lenient? Is he going to be just rough and ready? Apparently, the street is saying that there's going to be a tiered system, 3 tiers. And then there's also the talk of just one tariff across the board. Trump, of course, is going to be revealing all that information later on this evening. Now, it's going to be done at 4 p.m. when the markets close. Typical Trump, huh? He's been talking nonstop throughout all these past few weeks, banging on about these tariffs, but he's going to mention the main bulk of the whole thing of the tariff at the close. What do you want me to say to you? I think it's absolutely... Anyways. Let's get with the program, ladies and gentlemen. Exciting times. Here we go. So, everyone is waiting for it. Look, jokes aside, right? Listen, it's very, very tricky times to be trading. So just, people that are trying to FOMO in and what have you, just be very cautious, man. The best way to approach the market today is to just wait for the news to come out, because tomorrow, what do you think the market's going to do? It's just going to stop? No, Asia will have to react to the tariff Trumps. Now, you've got prime ministers like, I can't even stand the guy. He's talking about that the UK is going to be reciprocal with their tariffs as well. They're going to try and work out what they need to do. You've also got the Eurozone saying if we need to act, we will. So you can see it's just who's going to call the bluff. And tonight, I believe Trump is going to deliver the flavor, which is going to get a lot of nations to start getting a little bit concerned. Going into the marketplace today, ladies and gentlemen, we have seen that the actual data come in and showed 155,000 jobs. I mean, that's good news. Your economy is doing great. Say goodbye to your interest rates, ladies and gentlemen. So, still, as it stands, they are 86.2 to 13.8 on the interest rate swap bet. So, we ain't getting no interest rate cuts, man. Even though the US needs it, given that the data that come out yesterday suggested that could be the case. Anyways, you know what? Forget all this news stuff right now. We need to start talking about Bitcoin. Now, Euro, there she is, and they're making a nice little flavorsome move to the upside, heading close towards the overnight high. We've got this big area over here that we would like to see Euro try and make a bit of a tap towards that zone. Now, of course, we go into Bitcoin. Oh, dearly beloved Bitcoin. Now, today, right, we're going to be trading in the Discord with the Platinum members. We're going to be looking at NASDAQ today, but I'm going to be very honest with you all. It's going to be a bit of a tricky time with the NASDAQ, but they're doing exactly what they did yesterday. They're marking it lower. The exposure's coming into play. They're going to get ready to pull a dirty number on the NASDAQ. But remember, the market is going to be open, of course, up until the Trump discussion, and then it will close, and then that's when the market's going to get a little bit crazy. So what you've got to be mindful of is they are effectively going to try and price it in right now, and then going into the Asian session, they will then react to it again. So you've effectively got 2 reactions. You've got the actual reaction up until the tariffs, and then you've got the reaction once the tariff story has come into play. That means Asia's going to react pretty aggressively to it. Okay, so just wait, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm saying it from a good place, in the sense, it's not that I don't want you to make money, but if you're going to try and take a stab at what's going on right now, you're probably going to get stabbed. Now, we're going into Bitcoin order flow, and you understand that we've got quite a few guys wanting to sell the Bitcoin. 3,600 traders have been liquidated. But what you got to understand is this. Look, all of this right here. This is money that wants to be taken. At the same time, you've got money down here that wants to be taken, okay? So you've got to be very, very cautious. In my opinion, this is what could actually happen today. This is Bitcoin's price. You've got price action going sideways, not really doing much. Tariff story comes into play. Trump says something, Bitcoin swipes lower. Bitcoin then tries to make a quick recovery up. Look left, you can see we've got all of this liquidity right here, and you've got this wick. That's a problem. Don't get it twisted. Bitcoin can actually just sweep lower and shake everyone out, because everyone is now jumping onto the idea that the tariffs are coming with a new tier system, and he might be as lenient. So it's going to be much easier for nations to adapt to this new way of tariffs, and the market will welcome that. The market will then start climbing up. Let's look at it from the options perspective. This is what was going on in out of hours, okay? Not really seeing anything that's got my attention. And we've got a couple of Meta and Nvidia buy calls as such, but I'm not really seeing that much on sells. I mean, we've got SPY, sell puts right there, Netflix. So people are, in principle, staying away from the market right now because they are a little bit concerned. You can see it as bright as day. 154 and 174 on stocks that are up on volume and stocks that are down on volume. But I will say this to you, as much as you're all like Bitcoin, 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 what's the denominating currency that you exchange Bitcoin into? It's dollars. I strongly recommend you pay attention to what's going on in Forex. We're going into very big times. There's changes in monetary policies. They're adjusting interest rates, okay? You've got inflation, and everyone is betting, and where are they going to be putting their money in relation to the actual Forex market, because they have to change their money to put it into other risk asset classes. For example, you've got guys looking at euro right now. Euro's moving up, okay? What does that tell you? Well, it tells you that the dollar's going down. What does it also tell you? It also tells you that you can get 2.18% on the rate swap implied differential, okay? What does that tell you? That's how much I can earn exchanging my dollars into euros. So I've got that to take into consideration. We just had some data come out, 155K on the labor market. What does that mean? Well, it means interest rates are going to be higher for longer. But the Federal Reserve is in a bit of a catch-22 because inflation could be compromised. Jobs market is slowing down, and you've had ADP coming in higher. It's mixed. So investors are going to go back to what they know. They know that the economy is starting to contract. They know that the labor market is still up there, but they know that inflation could be compromised by labor. That's why the euro is pumping and the dollar is going down, okay? So when the dollar's going down, what's going on? People are exchanging what into what? They're exchanging dollars into high-risk assets. Fundamentally, that should mean Bitcoin should be climbing up. Going over into the stock market, investors are getting rid of risk because they need a safer haven. NASDAQ going down, the dollar dominance is going down. Why are you going to hold on to stocks that are losing value? And especially given that your dollar purchasing power is also losing value. So you better get rid of your stock because it's at 3.5%. That means that as you get rid of stock, you are retaining value in the dollar. So then you can get that dollar and go elsewhere. Where else can you go? Euro. Now, do you understand that story, that little circle that I just did? And that's all about understanding Forex. So now you take it and say to yourself, Bitcoin. Fundamentally, Bitcoin should be climbing up against the US dollar. Now, Bitcoin is a little bit delayed with its behavior and it's slow. But fundamentally, from the perspective of money being exchanged, Bitcoin should be going up. USDT. That's going up. What's going on there? Well, they are actually offloading. So they're buying Bitcoin. Now, the next significant point in USDT is down here. This is a psychological area. Why? Because this is where they last sold the Bitcoin. Okay? So the next logical spot for USDT is to end up down here at 5.16, which is where the idea of value comes into play. Okay? Let's be honest now. The reason why cryptocurrency isn't moving as much as what Forex is, and why the legacy markets will always reign supreme when it comes to investors moving money, and why adoption in cryptocurrency isn't welcomed as quick and in the institutional environment, and of course, all your mum and dad investors, it's because how many people do you know would exchange Bitcoin for yen? Not many. How many institutional investors are going to take this right here and say, yeah, let's change our Bitcoin and start getting some of this stuff here? It's not there yet. Now, once you start getting institutional investors going nuts for it, boy, ladies and gentlemen, Bitcoin will be at significant prices. But because it's a supply, kind of limits and makes a lot of institutional investors see the greater risk of Bitcoin, which is why we always ask the question, is it really a store of value? I want you guys to answer that question. Euro, what are you doing? Euro. What an unbelievable thing. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Give me these questions. Give me these questions. Tina, my grandma says she's bullish on Bitcoin. Your grandma is the best, man. Your grandma is the best. She knows. Just don't let her sell a lung, right, to go and buy the Bitcoin. Wait till it goes down a little bit. Selling lungs, man. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Why am I the only one that always has to compromise? I'm not compromising my morals and my redemption for repent. Okay. You can store value in it. You can, but institutional investors don't see it like that. They're not looking at it in that perspective. 1 million Bitcoin lost forever. Fun fact, it's actually 4. There's 4 million Bitcoin that's either been lost, it's been confiscated, and wallets are just done. It's 4 million, man. Tariffs payable in Bitcoin. Tino, you are... Thank you, but... Yeah, thank you. If the tariffs are bullish for the US but bearish for the rest of the world, Bitcoin should move sideways. The problem is, right, this thing right here. How are these guys going to react to it? The ETF. They're mum and dad investors. They're also institutional investors. And they're already trying to position themselves because they're concerned. It says here, look, it says there isn't anywhere to purely hide because of the huge uncertainty that's in the market at the moment. Where's the uncertainty? There she is. Get ready for your next hedge. They're hedging. They're preparing gold for a yippee-ki-yay move to the upside. Telling you, they're getting ready to pop gold. But it all depends on what Trump says about these tariffs. If he shows leniency on tariffs, principle says that investors need to get out of safe havens and start going into risk-on assets. But if he's like, you know what, we're going to screw everyone in the world, gold will, off she goes. Telling you. On the SPX monthly chart, we have an RSI which crosses the MACD and is becoming red with the break of the monthly trend line. Last time it happened, we entered into a bear market. Efficient market hypothesis. Is the market efficient? Let me give you the value of a bear market. Bear markets start like this. You get a high, climatic move to the upside, drop, retrace level 1. Investors are like, no, buy the dip, drop, retrace level 2. Maybe this is the dip. Nope, let's go. And then it goes back down again, shakes everybody out. Everyone goes short, yippee-ki-yay to the upside. Every market drop, crash, has been because of an event. What are the events? We had a Fed pivot. The market said, nope. Do you understand that? We had the Fed pivot and the market said no. Historically, when the Fed pivots, the market usually corrects. Anywhere between the sum of around 15 to 25%, which is consistent with bear markets. Okay? Right now, the NASDAQ is yet to go into that territory, but it's very bloody close. Let's take the all-time high for the NASDAQ. This is bear market behavior. All-time high for NASDAQ, and go across, and you are at 15.53%. 20% would give you a corrective move, and the stock market is in bearish territory, okay? We're not there yet. Remember, the stock market has value locked of up to 40% overvalued stocks. Warren Buffett knows that because he's buying Japanese stocks, okay? He's picking up a lot of Japanese stocks. And you know what one representative said today from the Bank of Japan? It looks like in May we're going to increase the interest rates. Ladies and gentlemen, if the tariff story today ends up being positive, happy days, everything goes up. It doesn't go up for long because the carry trade unwind is going to happen. Let me explain. For those of you that don't know what a carry trade is, how many of you that are new know what a carry trade is? Can you please type yes if you know and type no if you don't? Can you please do that for me while I explain this story and answer this question? Tina, do you think we're experiencing the aftermath of the yield curve inversion from a few years ago? My friend, we had a yield curve inversion and we were supposedly going into a recession and then they just changed the definition of it. So the yield curve inversion is dog. All right? It's not mattering. All right? No, no, no. So those of you who said no, why are you not subscribed? Why? I talk about it all the time. All right, then. For the people that don't know, okay? The carry trade principle works like this. There are two currencies and that are low yielding, okay? That means the Japanese yen and the dollar. Now, if I feel like getting a little bit risky, I'm going to go over to Japan and say, yo, give me your money. I'll give them my dollars, okay? And so, I get my dollars, buy my yen, convert it into, borrow yen. Let me start again. Got me all messed up with that comment. If I want to put on risk, I'm going to borrow Japanese dollars. So I'll go to the Bank of Japan and say, give me your money. They say, here you go. Here is a rate. I then get my Japanese yen and go over to the dollar. So I exchange my yen for dollars. I then take my dollars and go to the stock market. And I'm like, yo, NASDAQ, where you at? NVIDIA, where you at? Okay? And this happens over and over and over between lots of institutional fund managers, hedge funds, you name it. They're capitalizing on the fact that money is cheap in Japan. Right now, it's 4.5% on the dollar. Okay? So that's expensive. So I'm going to take my bets with Japan. Why do you think Warren Buffett is buying stock in Japan? Because it's cheap. Now, stock market goes up. Everyone's loving life. You can see that everything's going well. Then what happens? Bank of Japan say, you know what? We need to increase the interest rates because we've got a bit of a problem with the wage inflation, and our CPI inflation has actually ticked up to 2.4%. We expected it to go down to 2.3, came in at 2.4. So they've got an inflation problem. What does that mean? Well, we need to increase the interest rates to slow down people spending money. What does that mean? Well, the guys that are in the stock market, okay, they need to do something. Why? Because all the money that they borrowed on the Japanese yen is now going to cost them more money. So they sell their stock, they then put it back into dollars, then they get their dollars and they sell it back into the Japanese yen. The Japanese yen increases in two ways. The actual currency itself increases in value. Happy days. Secondly, the Japanese bond market ends up going up as well. Okay? So that's good news. And then on top of that, the yield of the Japanese yen goes down. So it's not costing the US government, the Japanese government more money to pay investors for holding onto bonds. Okay? The last time that happened, ladies and gentlemen, was on the 5th of August. We go back to the 5th of August, and you can see what happened. 5th of August, 2024 was over here, right there. That's when they increased the interest rates. And they're saying they're going to do the same in May. So the question is that I've got for you all. You know what? I'm gonna close that. Yeah. The question I've got for you all is this. Is Bitcoin cheap enough yet? Because on the horizon, we know that they're going to be increasing the interest rates for the Bank of Japan. We know that the carry trade principle is to the sum of roughly around $6.5 trillion. When they unwinded the carry trade before, on the 5th of August, there was still $4 trillion left. But since then, yen's been going down and assets have been appreciating. Okay? So there's still a bit more money in the carry. Tariffs, interest rates in the US, inflation, Japanese yen increasing their interest rates. It's not a black swan, right? I'm really trying to think of an analogy to say, like, anyways. You just got a lot of shit in a pile, basically. And the market will react to that. So is Bitcoin cheap enough? Maybe these guys right here don't think so. That's why they're planting their liquidity. Now, I'm not the bearer of bad news. I'm not bearish, all right? I trade movement. I don't care about Bitcoin's price. I trade the movement. I trade the movement, okay? And if you're in crypto because of the technology, get out, bruv. You ain't in it for the tech. You wouldn't be so careful. You wouldn't care about Bitcoin's price so much if you were in it for the tech. Okay? Anyways, call it the gray swan. The gray swan now. Interesting. Any questions? XRP transfer into RMB. Russia said they are, yeah, about 640 million, whatever it was. Yes, Bitcoin is cheap at the moment. The price projection is 250K, 750K next 5 years. Yeah, of course it's going to be cheap in relation to that price projection. Bitcoin is not cheap. It's if you ain't buying Bitcoin now, you're missing out on $13 million Bitcoin. That's how Bitcoin is being sold, but you've got Wall Street in Bitcoin. Now, if Bitcoin gets to 13 million, it has to buck the idea of the NASDAQ. It has to completely dismiss Wall Street, and it can't go down when the stock market goes down. It has to go up when the stock market goes down, because then it would be deemed as the alternative or the hedge. Okay? In my honest opinion, if Bitcoin's going to go to 250K or 750K, okay? By that point, Nvidia, right? Because you've got to consider the market cap. I've got a price projection of Nvidia going to around $400-500. That would take it to around $6 trillion market cap for Nvidia. We're already at just under 3. Okay? That's a stock, bruv. Not a ecosystem. It's a stock. If Bitcoin were to go to 750,000, right? Where would the stock market be? Well, I believe that the NASDAQ would be at 30,000. The S&P would be about 10. And market caps across the board, well, NASDAQ would be 25 trillion now, minus 2.5. Okay? Then it could end up at about $50 trillion nearly. We're talking big numbers now. Is that possible? Wow. Any questions? These tariffs are the opportunity for Bitcoin to prove as a hedge. Correct. It is the tariff. It is the opportunity for Bitcoin to prove itself as a hedge. Okay. But the problem that you've got is no one's stepping into it. But they are. It's right there. Okay. It is right there. Now, the market will be opening very, very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Tino, do you recommend trading DOM on the Euro futures right now or stick to crypto and stuff? To be honest with you, Euro futures, here is the Euro futures right here. They trade so well. Euro is such a nice asset to trade during these environments because the NASDAQ is getting tricky. I'm playing options on the NASDAQ where I ain't got to worry about my ticks, okay? I haven't got to worry about my tick size. I'm just opening options and favoring higher prices above my entry point, my strike price, okay? But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Discord for the Platinum members. And if you're not part of it, get yourself involved because we're going to be diving into options over there to identify key areas on the NASDAQ that we are waiting for them to attack. I'm going to be paying close attention to any reversals that could be happening inside of this range. And that's all going to be done by paying attention to order flow. Okay. We did it yesterday and we absolutely violated the NASDAQ. We completely ripped that move to the upside yesterday. No, it was, yeah, this move up. It was, yeah, from here. We absolutely ripped it in the Platinum Discord. So fun and games in there, ladies and gentlemen. It's pinned to the top of the chat. Go check it out. Okay. Now, anything else, gang? Anything else just before the market opens? Tino, what the 50 EMA do today? Well, Bitcoin 50 EMA, bear with me. Just a quick update for you, for my holders. Right now, your Bitcoin is trading below the 50 EMA, and I bet you are watching videos all over the social media about the death cross that is about to happen. Listen, guys, there ain't no moving average out there that is going to override the logic of tariffs, the logic of interest rates, the logic of carry trades, okay? Right now, Bitcoin is playing in a very interesting zone, which it is subject to liquidity sweeps down below here and down below here as well. The bull run in Bitcoin, or the intention of sending Bitcoin up, will only start, in my opinion, once Bitcoin breaks this candle. Oops. If it can close above this candlestick, which is what I mentioned last night, Bitcoin goes. And that's the truth. How the F do you trade Forex after trading the NASDAQ? Paint dries quicker. Yeah, but when you trade Forex and you put size down, that's the thing about Euro. It moves slow, but you can put down size. All right? And you only need like 5-6 pips profit, man. I'm out. NASDAQ is just a nut job. When Viagra for crypto? Okay. Tina, could you please mark off some good points upon the chart, which I can, on the foreheads of women? Bro, man, it's always you. See your name and I'm like, is he going to ask a good question? Anyway, Bitcoin is not only a hedge, it is ultrasound money. It flies over seas in a second. You can transfer millions of value seamlessly. Yeah, but isn't Bitcoin a failed payment system? And that's coming from Ripple CEO. This is the future, ladies and gentlemen. This is the future. The future of shit. You want to pile up a currency, a cryptocurrency that does nothing? There it is. With that being said, mad love and respect, and I'll tune into you all later on for this mad story on Trump's tariffs. Peace. Stupid asset, man. I hate XR.